Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Amazing Audiobooks. I'm Heather Booth, Booklist's audio editor. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Also, Booklist will now be offering closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar I just mentioned. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Subtitle Settings. Last but not least, links to today's slides and a title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the link located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from Michelle Cobb, the Audio Sales Director at LA Theater Works, Jolene Bartow, the Marketing Executive at Dreamscape, and Beth Ives, the Associate Director of Marketing at HarperAudio. First, we'll hear from Michelle Cobb. Michelle is the Audio Sales Director at LA Theater Works. She is a partner at Forte Business Consulting, which provides business development services for the publishing industry, and she is Executive Director of both the Audio Publishers Association and Pub West. Take it away, Michelle.
Thanks for having me. So I encourage people here, you can see my email address. If you have any questions after this, I would say, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, let's get started by talking about what's happening in the state of audiobooks today. So just this morning, the APA, the Audio Publishers Association, actually released new data about the sales survey done by InterQ, which was akin to the 2020 data, and the consumer survey that is done by Edison Research that has our 2021 data. And I'm sure it's not really a surprise to anyone who's been following our statistics for a number of years, but the number of titles being produced is on the rise. In fact, we saw over 70,000 titles produced in 2020. And this was during a pandemic when no one was sure what would happen. We also saw our 9th year of double-digit sales growth. So we are producing more titles that are attracting more people to the format, and we're continuing to have great growth. Let's take a look at some of the consumer trends. First of all, people are spending more time listening in general. We've seen this from the consumer data over the last few years. We're also seeing an increase in the number of people who are listening to audiobooks who are from the younger side of the spectrum. So 56% of the people that replied to the 2021 consumer survey who are listeners are under the age of 45. Part of this is coming from the fact that more people who listen to audiobooks are also listening to podcasts, and people often discover audiobooks by starting with a purely audio experience of a podcast. And of course, we all now carry around a device that can literally hold hundreds of titles. The smartphone is king when it comes to what device people are listening on, and we've seen the growth of the audiobook industry come along in conjunction with the incorporation of the smartphone into our lives. Now let's take a look at some data that we saw change a little bit in the last year. We've seen for a decade now that a lot of people who listen to audiobooks say that they do it to relax and that they're doing it from their home. But we've started to see in just the last couple of years that the car was catching up. So when people tell us, what's the place that you listen to the most from? It used to be home was a lot stronger than car. It started to come back together with the incorporation of in-dash car players into cars themselves, that more seamless experience of listening to something on your phone and then hopping in the car and not having to plug it into anything, but having your car pick up from where your phone listening left off. But obviously things changed this last year. We did not drive as much. And so 55% of people said they listened to audiobooks at home the most, and 30% said the car. I think that's going to change significantly as we see the 2022 data that will be coming next year. All right, let's take a look at the makeup of listeners overall. 46% of people in the US, 18 and up, have ever listened to an audiobook. And one of the main reasons that people are doing a lot of listening is that they're trying to reduce screen time. We have heard for years people like to close their eyes and relax. We as audio publishers really struggled to understand this because so many of us are multitasking when we're listening. But 67% of people can't be wrong. It's a good thing to do when you are trying to get away from the screen, and we've been spending all day on our screens and on our phones. The other thing that we saw this past year is that children are listening to audiobooks more. A big reason for this, virtual schooling. We are all tired of seeing our kids on their computers all the time, so we are encouraging more listening. And despite all the changes that happened over the last year, the average number of books that people listen to stayed the same at about 8. All right, now I'm going to slide into talking a little bit about what I'm really here to talk about, which is LA Theater Works. We participate in a special program that's called Sync Audiobooks for Teens. This is a free program that's offered to young adults throughout the summer. Each week, there are 2 titles that are thematically brought together and made available through the Sora app. Anyone who would like to sign up, you go to audiofilemagazine.com/sync, you register, you download the Sora app, and you can access the titles from the audiobook sync library. LA Theater Works actually creates largely plays. And in this case, until tomorrow, you can obtain The Magic Barrel, which is actually a short story about a young rabbinical student and his encounter with a matchmaker. This was a co-production with the National Jewish Theater and is a full cast production, so lots of different voices in the mix. Coming up in just a few weeks will be another title that's available from Sync. That is Extinction. This is part of LA Theater Works' partnership with the Sloan Foundation. We produce a number of plays featuring science themes and usually coming along with a special interview to fill out the experience and give us more information about the play. Extinction is about a person who is trying to save an endangered species from a company. However, the company is actually funding her saving this endangered species. So it's that little angel devil on the shoulders kind of situation. This stars Sarah Drew, who you may recognize from Grey's Anatomy, and Seamus Dever, who is on Madam Secretary. And this will be available through the Sync program starting June 17th. So sign up for that program, encourage your patrons, your students to sign up for the program. It is free and it is long-term. You get to own those titles. All right, a little more about LA Theater Works. We are a nonprofit organization, and our mission really is to capture fantastic audio recordings that are made accessible to patrons of the arts and students all over the world. We have a special program called Setting the Stage for Learning that is set up for K-12. It's really mostly for high school students based on the offerings of the plays that we have. A teacher can sign up for free and have access to a very special collection of plays that includes the science plays and many classics. This can be a great way to bring audiobooks into your classroom and to do it at a very affordable rate. You can enroll digitally and you will be sent all the information. Now let's take a look at some new titles that have been coming to LA Theater Works. Now, normally LA Theater Works actually does record live in Los Angeles in front of an audience. Obviously, the live performances are not something that we've been able to do for a while, but we have continued to produce. We're actually producing in studio right now. The actors actually can't be together in studio, so it is a new process for us of bringing the actors in individually to record and then cutting all of their material together. That interactivity between the actors is really important for what we do because these are plays. And this one is so much fun. This is another one of the science plays. And it's actually about a woman who has a very specific plan for giving birth, but she's extremely anxious. So her father decides to create a device for safer deliveries, and things don't necessarily go as one might anticipate. This includes a conversation with the playwright and an OBGYN and contributor to the Today Show. And it stars Anna Ortez that you see pictured there. Next up, we have 5 short stories by women. Oh, these are some of my absolute favorite short stories by authors such as Joyce Carol Oates, Rebecca Lee, Sandra Cisneros, Amy Hempel, and Nadine Gordimer. Each one is read by a well-recognized actor, Sarah Drew, that we've talked about, Emily Bergel, Rita Moreno, Lynn Collins, and Alex Kingston. It's a great collection, which is good for schools and public libraries as well. Next up, we have Murder in the First. This is a courtroom drama that is actually based on a true incident that dealt with conditions at Alcatraz. And this stars Ed Asner. One of the things that we did in the pandemic was go back and look at our collection of titles that had not been made available digitally, and we've been able to add to that collection. And this is a good example of one of those pieces. Another of the Sloan plays is coming up next, Life on Paper. This is about a wealthy man who's died in a plane crash, and the insurance company hires someone to minimize their payout. However, someone else hops in to challenge the idea of the value of human life. And the recording includes an interview with the playwright. And again, we've got that powerhouse duo of Sarah Drew and Seamus Dever. One of the MacArthur Fellows is the author of our next play. The Thanksgiving play by Larissa Fasthorse is really quite fun. This is about a group of politically correct teachers who have to create a Thanksgiving play for their students. They bring in what is ostensibly a Native American actor to help them with the production. And it turns out, well, she's maybe not who she says she is. This production also includes a conversation with the playwright, and you can see it stars Liza Vile, who you may recognize there from Gilmore Girls. Not sure you knew this, but Ingmar Bergman many years ago adapted Heinrich Ibsen's A Doll's House. We did a production starring David Dukes, Robert Foxworth, and Linda Pearl that is now available for the first time in a long time and on digital. For those of you looking for something fun, I will turn you to New York Profiles. It's about a woman who has been married for 18 years. She's kind of had enough of her life on a South Carolina military base, and she decides to go to New York and enter the art world. And, you know, she might find a little romance as well. The next author I'm sure you'll recognize, David Schwimmer. If anyone's been watching the Friends reunion, you may have heard on that he did a lot of theater. And in fact, much of that he did in Chicago. So many years ago, he actually wrote and directed this adaptation of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. It was produced in conjunction with the Looking Glass Theater Company, and it is great to hear him be talented in so many different ways. A title that has seen a resurgence in many ways. There was a recent movie of The Manchurian Candidate as well. This is another production that we were able to reach back into the archives and pull out a digital production. It's John Lahr's adaptation of the Richard Condon novel. Another classic that is coming to digital for the first time is The Gin Game. This is about a kind of a fight over gin rummy between two people, played by Catherine Hellmond and Harris Yulin. It is a Pulitzer Prize winning play and really a delightful recording. I highly recommend you to give it a listen. Coming up later this month is Herbert Siguenza's A Weekend with Pablo Picasso. He plays Picasso himself, and it's really based on Picasso's writings. This is quite the performance, and it will be available in just about 2 weeks, and includes a conversation with the playwright performer and Stephanie Barron, who's a curator at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. We've been working in conjunction with the California Civil Liberties Program from the California State Library, and we've been putting together a number of plays. Greg Watanabe stars in 2 of them. This is Jeannie Sakata's For Us All. It's about this fight to overturn the conviction of an unjustly sentenced World War II mass incarceration resistor. It's a fantastic piece. And coming out in August is an adaptation, again starring Greg Watanabe. This is an adaptation of a book that is set during the aftermath of the Japanese incarceration and resettlement to the West Coast. These are both powerhouse pieces and got a lovely write-up recently with Greg actually doing a Q&A for us on Broadway World. If you've liked a lot of what you've seen, I highly recommend you take a look at our drama collection. This is only available direct from LA TheaterWorks. It's 250 plays on 500 CDs as 25 circulatable volumes. Each year, we bring out a new collection. So on the next slide, we'll see the 2013 through 2019 collections. And then some of the titles that we have discussed here today are available in the 2020 collection. Again, that's only available direct from LA TheaterWorks. However, most of our titles are available from your favorite library vendor on CD and digital. On the next slide, I again include my email. Oops, I think we went backwards instead of forwards. There we go. If you have any suggestions for plays that you would like to see made into audio, or if you have questions or would like to find out more about our educational programs, some of which include study guides to help teachers with their teachings, I'd be happy to help you. My email's there, and I thank you for listening and for sticking with me to hear about the new data from the audiobook world.
Thank you, Michelle. We will now hear from Jolene Bartow. Jolene is the marketing executive director for Dreamscape, a publisher that curates and publishes content with libraries first in mind. She has had the privilege of working with various publishers in the past, including HarperCollins and Turner Publishing. A voracious audiobook reader, she is a loyal patron of the public library systems in Nashville, Tennessee, where she lives with her family. The floor is yours, Jolene.
Thank you. It's so great to be with everybody today. I'm thrilled to be able to present some titles that we got coming out from Dreamscape during the summer and fall of this year. And thank you, Michelle, for giving us a kind of an update on the audiobook world. That was great to hear. Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and kick right in. Again, I have a slide here. If you want to go on to the next one, just with my contact information, also our website address. We're also on social media. We'd love to connect with you there. We post a lot of audiobook clips for you to listen to on those channels. So we'd love to connect with you there. And I'll jump right into our first title. We got Freshwater for Flowers by Valerie Perrin. This was actually a bestseller in Europe during a time where people were reading more because we were in lockdown. So we're really excited to be able to offer it for the first time in English. This story deals with a main character named Violet Toussaint. She's a caretaker at a cemetery in Bourgogne, in Burgundy, France. She kind of has a routine of a small town cemetery keeper with gravediggers, groundskeepers, and a priest. But it gets interrupted by a local police chief who insists on scattering the ashes of his recently deceased mother on the gravesite of a complete stranger. we find that maybe this request and gesture is connected with Violet's own difficult past. Just want to quote real quick a review from Booklist. This is a charming novel, but they said, full of contentment and hope, this is a thoughtful take on the inner life of an unforgettable woman. So really excited to be able to offer this in English audio. This comes out June 1st. So today, go ahead and feel free to go grab it. Next up, we have A Peculiar Combination. This author, Ashley Weaver, is an Edgar-nominated author of the Amory Ames mystery series, so known within the mystery novel space. This is a World War II mystery novel where our main character is a spunky young woman who is following in the family trade of being a locksmith. Unfortunately, during World War II, there wasn't a lot of locksmith business, so her family has to turn to less savory methods of making money, including trying to break into a safe of a wealthy family that is full of jewels. But they kind of get busted by the law, and they get basically a plea bargain where they agree to help the British government, and specifically a Major Ramsey, in getting some blueprints that are important for the British war effort that they think is going to be intercepted by a German spy. Except when they go to get those blueprints, the German spy, or the apparent German spy, is dead, and they have to go on the hunt for these blueprints before it ends up in German hands. So this is a great novel, I think, for not only people who love a good mystery, but also historical fiction fans will love this one as well. Just wanted to call out the Booklist review for that one too. This is a well-constructed historical spy story with plenty of romance, intriguing period details, and fascinating insights into the nitty-gritties of safe cracking. So if you've ever wanted to figure out how to crack into a safe, maybe this will be a good one to check out. Okay, so next up we have The Hive by Melissa Shoals Young. This is a contemporary riff on Little Women. It follows the Fur sisters. They are part of the family business, which is pest control. When their father, the patriarch, passes away suddenly, they find out that the business was not left to them. It was left to a distant cousin. So they have to navigate how to help a struggling business amongst an economic recession in the backdrop of growing Midwestern fear and resentment. They have to struggle to save the company's finances and the family's future. To survive, they must overcome a political chasm that threatens a new civil war as the values that once united them now divide the very foundation they've built. We're really excited about this as well, that it is under option with Sony Television, so we might see a video adaptation soon. This will release on June 8th. Next up, we have A Dark and Secret Place. This is written by Jen Williams, who has won twice the British Fantasy Award for her Winnowing Flame trilogy. And you kind of see her fantasy chops brought to this psychological suspense novel. The main character in this, Heather Evans, returns to her family home after her mother's baffling suicide. She finds out her mom has been writing a serial killer called the Red Wolf that has been in jail for 20 years and still maintains his innocence. And when a young woman is found murdered with the same kind of calling cards as the Red Wolf, it comes into question whether the person in jail is truly the serial killer, and also why she has to question why her mother has been contacting this person for years and years. So not only a great mystery novel, true crime fans I think would gravitate toward this as well, but also we have this family mystery that the main character has to solve on top of the murder mystery. Next up, we have a essay and memoirs, a really, what I think an important book by Chris Malcolm Belk. This is Belk's reflections and memoirs on what it means to be a transmasculine, non-binary parent. When he gave birth to his son, Samson, him and his partner, Anna, went to go adopt them together. So, they were legally his guardians. But it listed Chris as the natural mother of the child. So he examines what that means as a transmasculine, non-binary person, what this umbrella of motherhood truly means. He also creates a new life record, one that engages directly with the documentation often thought to constitute a record of one's life, such as childhood photos, birth certificates. And he also addresses a deep ambivalence about the before and after that's so prevalent in trans stories, which he doesn't feel is really a part of his own experience. So it's, I think, a very unique point of view, and also one that many people are going to understand from a parenting point of view, of what it means to be a parent and never truly knowing what you're getting into, essentially, at the end of the day. Chris also narrates this, so I think it brings a lot of intimacy to his story with his narration. This releases on June 15th. And next up, we have No Hiding in Boise by Kim Hooper. You may have heard of her before from All the Acorns on the Forest Floor. This book deals with a pretty serious topic where we follow three women's point of views as they deal with a shooting in a local town bar. One of the women has her husband missing and who was involved in the shooting. One is a bartender at the bar that the shooting took place, and she survives, and she's trying to deal with an element of survivor's guilt. And the third woman has a son that they believe was the shooter. We put a full cast on this audiobook, so we bring a lot of different voices to life, really fleshes out this point of view, multiple points of view, and deals with a serious topic but still bringing warmth and empathy to something that's really hard to talk about, and something we have been having a conversation about in terms of gun violence and what that means to our local communities. Just wanted to point out the review from Publishers Weekly on this. Hooper's unflinching, insightful account of the emotional fallout from tragedy is notable for its focus on hope in a time of immense sorrow. And next up, we have Eartha and Kit. I think we all are aware of Eartha Kitt and what she has meant to us as a pop culture icon. But this is a unique point of view that we get to see in this, because it's told from her daughter's perspective, Kit Shapiro. And she really talks about not only, the legacy her mother left within, film and music, but also, what it meant to be, a woman who identified as Black, who had a child that was, blonde and pale, and how they were perceived as a pair with these different kinds of outward looking, bodies, essentially. So it's a very unique perspective, and also one full of warmth and love for Eartha Kitt and everything that she has, stood for, and all the work that she did in her lifetime. This is also narrated by Karen Chilton, who is an audio award-winning narrator. So thrilled to have her on that project. This comes out June 22nd. Next up, we have Raising LGBTQ Allies by Chris Tompkins. This is, I think Publishers Weekly did a great job. This guide is a powerful treatise on creating a more accepting world. This is really about talking to kids about, what it means, what are heteronormative conversations sometimes how they are harmful sometimes, and how we can be more accepting towards anybody who does not fit within those parameters, and having those conversations really early, because not only might we as caretakers, educators, parents, people who interact with children on a daily basis, not only will maybe the kids that we're talking to might fit within these LGBTQ parameters, but they also might have friends and family members that are part of these, LGBT community. So really being able to address any transphobic beliefs or anything that might come up in conversation later in life, we can address those early on. Chris Tompkins also has quite a few TED Talks where he talks about childhood development, so he's kind of known in this space. So I think a really important book and a great guide for parents and caretakers. This comes out on July 6th. Next up is Sweet Tea. This is a Hallmark title. We partner with Hallmark to produce their audiobooks. And so we're really excited about this one. Super fun. and clean, wholesome romance. Anybody, any of your patrons or students or anybody who likes the Hallmark Channel will love these titles. The author, Piper Hughley, is a two-time Golden Heart finalist. She's written a series that deals specifically with African-American protagonists and characters in a romance series. So she's known within this space for offering diverse casts. In Sweet Tea, we get to follow a character, Althea. She's a big shot New York lawyer, first African-American woman in her firm to be a partner. And she's been transferred to a case down south, a big case down south, but she has to, of course, stop in her hometown of Milford, Georgia, and see her family before she goes to this case. She visits her grandmother and finds out she's made a new friend with a young white man named Jack. He is working on a project of a documentary and a cookbook about authentic Southern food. She's a little worried, though, that Jack is trying to steal her grandmother's recipes and not give her full credit. So the two butt heads in the beginning and may or may not fall in love in the end. You'll just have to read to find out. But this comes out on July 13th. Next up, we have Helen Huang's new book. We're super excited about this. You might know her from The Kiss Quotient and The Bride Test. Anybody who's a big fan of those books will definitely transfer over to The Heart Principle. The main character, Anna, is a violinist who went viral with a YouTube video. She finds herself burnt out when she tries to replicate that viral video and that isn't seem to be working. Not only that, but her boyfriend wants to break up and be in an open relationship. And so Anna decides she will take full advantage of this open relationship and get to date as many guys as she wants. The more dangerous, the better. So she meets Quan, who is a tattooed motorcycle riding guy. But they find out that they end up liking each other. And when Anna goes through some family emergencies and family tragedy, they have to kind of navigate their relationship through that. So we're really excited to have Helen's new novel. And also Natalie Naudus just got announced last week that we will have her as the narrator for Anna, and we're still casting for Quan. So if you don't know Natalie, she is on TikTok and she's a very funny narrator who does great videos. So would suggest you go check her out. That comes out in August. And then next up, we have A Boring Wife Settles the Score. This is the much anticipated sequel of Autopsy of a Boring Wife by Marie Renee Lavoie. This follows Diane from Autopsy of a Boring Wife, our main character, post-divorce, trying to find love, trying to fill her days, and gets to kind of examine not only her hilarious point of view, so these books are super funny, but they also explore what it means to be a woman in your 50s trying to find love. So really fun narrative, super excited to be able to offer the follow-up for this universe with Diane. This comes out in August as well. And then next up we have Lauren Griffin's new novel, Last Seen Alone. Lauren Griffin is a New York Times and a US Today bestselling author. She's got 25 books and novellas. She's won 2 Rita Awards. She's also a recipient of the Daphne du Maurier Award. So award-winning author. Her new book, Last Seen Alone, deals with Lee Larson. She's an up-and-coming attorney who specializes in victims of sexual extortion, harassment, and online abuse. She takes on a new client named Vanessa and finds out that she goes missing in this very mysterious circumstance. So Lee has to team up with homicide detective Brandon Reynolds and find out what happened to Vanessa. So I think this has an interesting point of view and what Lee is typically fighting for, which is, sexual extortion, harassment, and online abuse. I think this is something that many young women and other young individuals especially are probably going to have to deal with in the future as our online landscape keeps changing. And it's also just got the quintessential thriller fingerprints on this one. So excited for this one. It comes out in September. And then we have a new thriller from Catherine Valente, Comfort Me with Apples. This, I think fans of The Wife Upstairs was real big last year. A domestic thriller, I think will gravitate to this book as well. The main character, Sophia, feels like she has the perfect life, but there seems to be a couple things amiss, such as the look on her husband's face when he comes home from a long business trip, the questions he will not answer, the locked basement she is never allowed to enter, and when she asks the neighbors, they can't quite meet her gaze. So we got to figure out what is going on and why Sophia feels ill at ease. Catherine Valente is a New York Times bestselling author, and has won numerous awards such as the Hugo, finalist in the Nebula World Fantasy Awards. So super thrilled to be able to bring this into audio. And then I just wanted to touch quickly on some of these genres that we have. We've created these SoundCloud playlists. So even though I didn't touch on these individual titles featured on each of these slides upcoming, so we got mystery and thriller. And then if you want to go to the next one, we have a romance one as well. We have lots in these genres, and we try to make sure that there's clips that you can go listen to see if this is something you want to offer to your patrons. So we have a very wide breadth of catalog in both of these genres, and I wanted to make those playlists available to you. And then also on the next slide, we have a classics. We do bring a lot of these classic stories and narratives to life. The Great Gatsby, we had Sean Astin read on it. So great, talent on all of these as well. Tragedy Macbeth has a full cast. So really excited to offer these. And we also have a playlist for that. And then on the next slide, I just want to touch real quick. We do have quite a few audio titles that kind of don't fit in the typical audiobook space. I would liken these a lot to like great courses and master class, and some of those where you feel like you're learning something about a subject matter. One Day University is very much live lecture, subject experts, best in their field, talking about a specific subject. Learn 25 is very much like that, but these are more podcast style. So they're recorded in a studio, don't have that same live ambience and on a specific subject. And then Hot Science is about cutting edge science for us lay people who don't understand all the tricky scientific terms. So they really go into some of the hot science topics that we're talking about today. And that wraps it up for me. Thank you so much. Again, Dreamscape appreciates any feedback. Feel free to email me, visit us at our website, and be happy to field any questions or get you information about these books or any of our other audiobooks that you might have questions or comments on. Thanks so much.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I am Beth Ives. I am the Associate Director of Marketing for HarperAudio and for Harlequin Audio as well. And we'll go to the first slide. I will be presenting, mostly focusing on our summer titles, but also giving a look ahead to some wonderful audiobooks we'll have on sale this fall as well. So first, I'll start out with Summer on the Bluffs. This is the first book in a new series that's perfect for fans of Dottie Frank. The author is Emmy Award winner, renowned lawyer and journalist, and View co-host Sunny Hostin. If you don't know what Oak Bluffs is, it's the Black elite community within Martha's Vineyard. It's where the Obamas vacation and where Meghan Markle has been spotted numerous times. So in this book, protagonist Perry Soto, who's a high-powered lawyer from New York City, this is a place she escapes to each summer. And she's just chilling out with her friends, having a good time, when an unexpected character moves into the community and upends everything. So this is and this all starts Memorial Day weekend. So basically, perfect time to tell all your patrons about this book. It's the perfect summer read. Next slide. The Woman with the Blue Star. This is written by Pam Jenoff, who I think needs no introduction. She is the New York Times bestselling author of The Orphan's Tale and The Lost Girls of Paris. This is a multicast performance performed by Jennifer Jill Aria, Emily Lawrence, and Nancy Peterson. So this one, it's, her thing is no one does it better than her, women's World War II fiction. And in this one, this is about a friendship during World War II that becomes a tale of unfathomable sacrifice and unlikely friendship. Next. The Anatomy of Desire by L.R. Dorn. This is a fantastic full cast audiobook. L.R. Dorn are actually a husband and wife team. They are Hollywood. They've been in Hollywood for a long time, and they're writers, they're producers, and this is their first work of fiction. It's really their passion project. And it is performed docuseries style. So it's basically all interview style. And the narrator is a documentary filmmaker who's making a documentary about a murder trial. So performers in this cast include Santino Fontana, Shelby Young, Marilyn Ireland, J.D. Jackson, just to name a few. I can't tell you enough how good this audiobook is. It's just amazing. It's about a social media fitness influencer named Cleo Ray. That's who Shelby Young plays, who is accused of murder. And it's about all the people in her lives. It's about her girlfriend and her boyfriend, and it all, it all leads up to this trial with a bunch of surprises and a surprise verdict. So if you like Serial and you like making a murder podcast, this is perfect for you. Next. Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. This is performed by Caitlin Kenyon. We're so excited about this book. This is centered around a girl's coming of age in 1970s Baltimore. It's perfect for fans of Almost Famous and Daisy Jones and the Six. So it's when a girl caught between her straight-laced family and the progressive family she nannies for, who happens to be a secretly hiding famous rock star and his movie star wife for the summer. This audiobook also includes an exclusive original song. And I also want to thank Booklist for making this audiobook a review of the day last week. Thank you, Heather, as well. The review said, Kenyon's powerful tones capture the wary wonderment and independence of Mary Jane's coming of age. Her narration also taps into the inner beliefs and perspectives of each character. Next. The Stepsisters by Susan Mallory, performed by Tanya Eby. Susan Mallory needs no introduction. She is New York Times bestselling author who's hit #1. And we're so excited to have another summer book by her, perfect beach read. So this is about two stepsisters who, when their mom and dads got married, they did not like each other. You know, they were always fighting. There was this rivalry. And it ended up with them basically, they both fled when they were grown up and never talked to each other. So fast forward 18 years, 2 kids and 1 troubled marriage later, one of the characters who never expects to see Sage, her stepsister, again, but when they end up meeting each other, they put aside their differences, and long buried truths are revealed, and a friendship eventually blossoms. So really great story. Susan Mallory at her finest. Next. Our Woman in Moscow by Beatrice Williams. This is performed by Nicola Barber and Cassandra Campbell. Beatrice Williams is a New York Times bestselling author. She's back doing what she does best. In each book, she really ups it a level in terms of her writing. Like, her books get more and more literary. So this is back with her, A Story of Spycraft, Love, and Family Ties, which proves again why author Ellen Hildebrandt says Beatrice is writing the best historical fiction out there. Okay, next. The Warsaw Orphan by Kelly Rimmer. This is performed by Nancy Peterson and Charlie Thurston. Kelly Rimmer is the author of The Things We Cannot Say, who is amazing, which is an amazing title that is just skyrocketing in sales. This is women's World War II fiction. It's inspired by the real-life heroine who saved thousands of Jewish children during World War II. This is Kelly's most anticipated novel since her best-selling sensation, The Things We Cannot Say. Next. Kennedy's Avenger by Dan Abrams and David Fisher. This is performed by the author and Roger Wayne. So this, if you like American history, you absolutely have to listen to this audiobook. So this is the story of Jack Ruby, who assassinated Lee Harvey Oswald very publicly. So this is basically about his trial. And for something, I think what a lot of people forget is that Jack Ruby died an innocent man based on he was granted a mistrial and his guilty verdict was overturned. And before a new trial could begin, he actually died of pneumonia. So it's all about what was going on at that time. And I think, this is a lesser known court case that I think is just fascinating personally. So I think people will just flock to this. Next. Cack-Handed, written and read by Gina Yasher. So this book is hilarious. Gina is hilarious. If you don't know who she is, she was the first British comedian on Def Comedy Jam. And she is currently the British correspondent on The Daily Show and has 3 comedy specials on Netflix. And she is, as you see here, the co-executive producer and writer of the CBS hit series 5 Parts, Abishola. So this is about her coming to America and breaking into Hollywood. It's about her unconventional upbringing in Nigeria and just everything that she's been through and the crazy stories that she has from birth. You see that one of the stories is she was poisoned by her jealous sister wives and marked with a spot on her neck. From birth, Gina carried a similar birthmark, a sign that she was her grandmother's chosen heir and would fulfill her mother's dreams. Gina would learn to speak perfect English, live unfettered by men or children, work a man's job, and travel the world with a free spirit. And I absolutely, if you don't follow her on social media, you really must. When she was recording the audiobook, I absolutely love this. It was right when, people were getting more comfortable going out after the pandemic and going to nail salons. And she posted a video of herself going to get a manicure for the first time in a year after a hard day recording her audiobook. Next. The Collected Works of Jim Morrison. This is a phenomenal, unique audiobook. This is written by Jim Morrison with a foreword by Tom Robbins. This is the definitive anthology of Jim Morrison's writings. It features a lot of never before seen stuff, along with photographs and numerous handwritten excerpts of unpublished and published poetry and lyrics from his 28 privately held notebooks. All of those are included in a PDF enhancement that comes with the audiobook. What is most amazing about this is that it contains a never before heard recording that Jim did on his 27th birthday on December 8th, 1970. It is 48 minutes long, and it's included in its entirety on this audiobook. And the audiobook also features the voices of Patti Smith, Liz Phair, Oliver Ray, Tom Robbins, Frank Lissandro, Ann Morrison Tuning, Sefton Graham, and Ian Morrison. This is definitely one of our lead audiobooks for the summer. Next, The Hidden Palace by Helen Wecker. This is performed by legendary George Goodall. So this is such a highly anticipated book. This is the follow-up to The Golem and the Genie, which was a compulsively readable, critically acclaimed book. It was an Amazon editor top 20 pick, Amazon Spotlight debut, and Indie Next pick, and also just full disclosure, an in-house favorite. It's just so good. And it came out in 2011. This is the long-awaited follow-up to And it is set in New York City and the Middle East in the years leading up to World War I. And in this, the relationship between Shaba and Ahmed in the years leading up to World War II is deepened, and you find out more about them and the challenges they confront in this changing world. Next. Terraform, written and performed by Propaganda. If you don't know who Propaganda is, he is a spoken word rap artist. And he's basically, he's hip hop. He's also a little Christian. He appeals to a YA audience. So think fans of Elizabeth Acevedo and Russ, and even Jason Reynolds. This audiobook has 4 exclusive original songs by Propaganda that he wrote just for this book. So in this, he looks at the way in which our world is broken using the metaphor of terraforming, creating a livable world out of an inhospitable one. He shows how we can begin to reshape our homes, friendships, communities, and politics. Propaganda is the co-host of the Red Couch podcast, which is very popular, and he'll be heavily promoting this audiobook on that. Next. How to Survive America, written and read by D.L. Hughley. D.L. Hughley is a comedy legend. He is a 2-time Audie-nominated author, narrator, and in this, he returns to do its humor, but it's also topical, and he's not afraid to kind of really go after the big topics. So this one, he focuses on kind of what happened to African-American communities during COVID, and how so many were disproportionately infected and killed by the pandemic. So with that, he was inspired to take a lens at how that happens in healthcare all the time, and has been for a long time. So this is, his deep dive into what we can do to improve Black public health, and is, a really important step in continuing the conversation of Black Lives Matter and race equality in America. Next. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by the one and only Quentin Tarantino. This is performed by Jennifer Jason Leigh. I'm sure you have heard of Quentin's movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is Quentin's long-awaited first work of fiction. People have been wanting him to write a novel for years. And this is a shocking new novel based on his Academy Award-winning film, when the characters of Rick Dalton, Cliff Booth, Sharon Tate, and Charles Manson are all back. Next. Island Queen. This is by Vanessa Riley, and it's performed by Anjoa Ando. And Adjoa is currently, you know her as Lady Danbury on Bridgerton. This is an own voices author narrator combo, and it's based on the incredible true life story of Dorothy Kirwan Thomas, a free woman of color who rose from slavery to become one of the wealthiest and most powerful land in the colonial West Indies. This is an amazing audiobook. Adjoa just kills it, and this is definitely this is a production that everyone needs to hear. Next. An Ugly Truth. This is by New York Times reporters Shara Frankel and Cecilia Kang. And this is the explosive expose about Facebook. The book Facebook doesn't want you to read. I think that it will take deep dives into Facebook that will definitely bring more to light the things that we already know are going on, but it takes an even deeper dive, and how it's a conduit for disinformation, hate speech, and political propaganda, while relentlessly pursuing growth. So this is performed by the authors and Holter Graham. Next. How to Kidnap the Rich, written by Rahul Raina. So this is performed by Riz Ahmed, who I'm sure that you know, who was recently nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in The Sound of Metal. This is a debut novel about modern day India. that it's so crazy and weird. Like if you loved Beijing Payback and Boy Swallows Universe, you will love this. So the character that Riz plays he was raised poor, but he's incredibly brilliant. So he starts to make money as a coach, as a tutor, and a performance coach for India's elite. So when one of the elite kids that he teaches wins a huge award, Riz's character decides to capitalize. So sorry, I just got a call during the middle of this. So basically it leads to the two of them getting kidnapped, to them pivoting and kidnapping their kidnappers. And it's just a sweeping adventure that we're so excited about. Next, When the Reckoning Comes by Latanya McQueen. This I really wanted to present because we're so excited about the production of it. This is a producer's choice to the max. It's a great book, but it's also like, I haven't gotten a chance to hear it yet, but our producer just says it's just an amazing audiobook. It's about a Black woman who returns to her hometown for a plantation wedding and the horror that ensues as she reconnects with the blood-soaked history of the land and the best friends she left behind. Next. And here, this is a fall title, but I wanted to present it. This is we have a full cast edition of Neil Gaiman's Good Omens coming in September. And I cannot tell you who the cast is. We are just waiting confirmation of one of the characters, but it's Neil Gaiman, it's full cast. Everyone's gonna love it, and it will not disappoint. Okay, next. And I know I don't have much time yet, but I just wanted to show you some of the wonderful audiobooks we have coming this fall. We have a novel from musician Josh Ritter. We have a new one from Rick Ross, Gabrielle Union, Anderson Cooper, Dave Grohl's memoir, which is amazing. We have Anthony Bourdain's biography, amazing. A new one from Alan Cumming, from Mitch Albom, and Ann Patchett, just to name a few. So that's all I have. And I do hope that you visit HarperAudio.com, which is our recently revamped website. It's a hub for everything you need to know about us and our titles. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can get our social media links. So please visit HarperAudio.com.
Thank you so much, Beth, and a big thank you to all of today's wonderful panelists. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, the title list, a certificate of completion, and a video recording of this presentation. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Did you know that registration for ALA's virtual annual conference and exhibition is now open? Taking place between June 23rd and 29, this year's conference will feature amazing speakers, educational programming, and an opportunity to connect with colleagues and librarians everywhere. Visit 2021alaannual.org for more details. Not yet a subscriber? Pair the print reading experience with the convenience of online access at booklistonline.com and lock in print, online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of this special webinar offer to get Booklist for only $75. Plus, for even more Reader's Advisory and collection development content, the scoop on the latest books and interviews with authors and librarians, tune in to our Shelf Care podcast at soundcloud.com/shelfcare. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more thank you to our sponsors, LA Theater Works, Dreamscape, and HarperAudio. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.